welcome back to my channel after a very long ass time. My name is Sam and I'm here to do a true crime story for all my crime buddies out there. This case is not an easy case to swallow, so take a deep breath because this case is a lot gruesome than I could ever imagine. Wait, I might be wrong because people are getting crazier day by day. So I hope you like it. Do remember to subscribe, like, and share my video. And do recommend me some cases or any ideas for future videos in the comment section below. Okay, I tried. I was gonna do my face, and so I did my face before so I can truly focus on the case because I could not for 1 minute focus on my story, and I just did not want to miss any type of details. I cannot miss any details. I feel like I owe it to the innocent soul lost in this case because she needs to be heard. Her life was important as well, and I just want to put her story out there so people know about her. And you guys pray for every single soul out there because who knows how much pain anyone has suffered, because I just cannot deal with the psychopathic behavior some people portray and even commit. Till this day, people are just crazy. I do not want to cuss on this channel. I know aunties, you'll be looking at me and be talking about me, but anyway, let's move on to the story. This case is about a murder of a young English girl at the age of 8, and this whole murder situation was so brutal that it caused a national outcry in the United Kingdom, and it was the first recorded case to ever do that. A fair warning, this case is very gruesome. It includes child murder and some gruesome details, so if you are a person of a faint heart, I recommend you to not listen to whatever I'm gonna say after this point and just click out and watch a very jolly video on YouTube because there's a lot of those. Fanny Adam was born on 30 April 1856, and she lived with her parents and 4 other siblings. Including her, they became 5 siblings. The siblings were Alan, George, Walter, Fanny being the 4th child of the sibling group, and Lizzie, the smallest sister. Fanny was described as being a tall, comely, intelligent girl, and people in the village said that she looked older than her age. She was 8 years old, so people said she looked like 13 and 14. And I'm honestly gonna put pictures somewhere else, here, anywhere. She looked quite young to me, and I feel like she looked her age. I don't think she looked older. Let's believe what the villagers said. In the town where she and her family lived, people said she was very lively and a cheerful disposition person, and her whole personality was just a bundle of joy. Fanny had a best friend named Minnie, and she lived next door, and they were both the same age, 8 years old. They were always together, even on the day when Fanny was killed. So let's get on to a little bit about the town Fanny and her family lived in. Alton was renowned for its plant called hop. Hop is basically a plant. It's used to create beer. So the town was known for hop, and a lot of beer companies, you know, started making their business there with this plant. And until 20th century, this whole business was booming in that town. The afternoon of 24 August 1867, Fanny, along with her sister Lizzie and her best friend Minnie, accompanied Fanny to Fanny's mother to ask for permission so they could go out and play at Flood Meadows. Flood Meadows was like an open field next to a hop garden and a river. So they used to play there very often. It was a very safe area, and they lived very close by. So Fanny's mother, not thinking twice, said, okay, you can go play there because, you know, they played there often, and Fanny's mother also had some housework to catch up on, and basically she wanted to have some me time as well. The crime rate in those years were not really high, so Fanny's mother was not really thinking about this whole situation, that anything could happen to her children. So it's not her fault as well, because it was just a normal thing back then. People would trust people in the surrounding areas nearby their houses as being safe. So it's not Fanny's mother's fault at all. As the girls got their permission and they were walking towards Flood Meadows into the Hop Garden, they met a guy named Frederick Baker, a 24-year-old solicitor clerk. He was wearing a long frock coat with light colored trousers and a tall hat on his head. Baker moved in to work and live in Alton 2 months prior to this whole situation that I'm gonna get on to. So this made him very unfamiliar to the town. The girls did recognize him because they used to see him at the church every Sunday, so they knew it was someone from the town, they could trust him. So they said hi and they went along to play in the Flood Meadow. When the girls were playing, Baker was sitting there watching them play. He even picked blackberries and paid them money to go buy sweets. All in all, he sounded like a normal, good guy in the olden days. I wouldn't be comfortable letting someone look at my children play. About an hour later, the girls got tired, so they were heading home when Baker approached Fanny and asked her if he could accompany him somewhere alone. Fanny refused because she did not want to go with him alone without her sister and her best friend. So Baker picked her up and left Lizzie and Minnie there. He just picked the girl up and just went away. Concerned, Lizzie and Minnie ran back home to Minnie's mother and they told her about the whole situation, but Minnie's mother ignored them because they were 8 and 5 years old, young children, and they were saying something that did not make any sense in that year. So they got ignored. So Lizzie and Minnie, thinking that Minnie's mother was fine with this whole situation, whatever was happening with Fanny, they thought it was just normal, so they carried on, played with each other, and they stopped thinking about Fanny. It was not until 5 p.m. when Lizzie and Minnie made their way to a neighbor, Mrs. Gardner, to have dinner when she realized that Fanny was not with them. So Lizzie and Minnie told Mrs. Gardner whatever the whole situation happened with them. So concerned, Mrs. Gardner went to Fanny's mother and told her about the whole situation where she was basically abducted. Mrs. Gardner and Fanny's mother accompanied each other to Flood Meadows to see what happened and where Fanny is. Mrs. Gardner and Fanny's mother found Frederick Baker near the gate where Hop Garden and the Flood Meadows separate each other. Mrs. Gardner confronted Baker, saying, "What have you done with the child?" And Baker assured her that he gave money to children very often to buy sweets, so it was nothing very strange for him. Mrs. Gardner then warned him that she was not afraid to hand him to the police, to which Frederick Baker replied, "You can do whatever you want." Baker's position in the town as a solicitor clerk initially deflected any suspicion Mrs. Gardner and Fanny's mother had, because he had a very high position. Being a solicitor in that village or town made him like a respected person. Around 7 to 8 p.m., Fanny was still not found. So Fanny's mother was so worried that she asked all the neighbors to help her search for her missing child. As evening was setting, the group of neighbors began searching for Fanny, and to no luck, they couldn't find her anywhere. However, a laborer in the Hop Garden found Fanny. So I'm gonna give a fair warning because the information I'm gonna put out there after this point is very gruesome and I do not want to hurt anyone out there, so please turn away. So the laborer who found Fanny's head on 2 hop poles while he was attending the crop. Fanny's head had a cut from her mouth to her ear, creating a smile-like pattern. Further investigation discovered that the remains of the child, the head, arms, the legs were separated from her torso. There were 3 incisions made on the side of her chest and a deep cut on her left arm, dividing her muscles. Fanny's forearm was cut off the elbow joint and her left leg was nearly severed off the hip joint, with her left foot cut off at the ankle point. Her right leg was torn from the torso and the whole contents of her pelvis and her chest was completely removed. 5 further incisions had been made on the liver and the heart was cut out and her private part was missing. Both her eyes were cut out and found in a nearby river. The river I talked about before when we were talking about flood meadows. I can't even imagine Fanny's mother's feelings right now because I cannot even imagine being in her position because I cannot think about my children like that. I don't know how these psychotic killers do this. After knowing about this whole situation, Fanny's mother wanted to go to Fanny's father, but because of all this stress and trauma about her daughter, she collapsed before. Fanny's father was playing cricket at the time, and when he found out the whole situation that happened with her daughter, he went and took a loaded shotgun to shoot the killer, but the villagers stopped him and they stayed with him the whole night so he doesn't commit a crime in all these emotions that he has been experiencing. Hundreds of people gathered the next day to help collect all the bits and pieces of Fanny that was scattered all over the hop gardens. I'm feeling so uncomfortable to even put this information out there, but so as I was saying, a lot of people, about 100 people, visited the hop gardens to collect Fanny's scattered remains. The police tried to search for the murder weapon, but they were unsuccessful. Looking at Fanny's remains, the police suspected that the murder weapons were 2 small knives that were used to commit this crime and dismember Fanny's body. Because there were a lot of people searching for Fanny's remains, the police suspected that the whole crime scene was contaminated with a lot of people going here and there, touching things, so they weren't able to collect a lot of clues. Members of the crowd, however, were able to find all Fanny's bits and pieces of clothes and her body parts, except her hat. Most of her body parts were collected on that day, but an arm, foot, and intestines were not recovered the next morning. 1 foot was still in the shoe, and the breastbone was never found. When all the remains were collected of Fanny, the people who were searching and helping out took the remains to a house called Leathern Bottle. I apologize for the name. And they helped sew Fanny's body together. There was a rock found with some flesh and hair sticking on it, so the police believe that it was the main weapon used to kill and knock out Fanny before her dismemberment. Police heard that Frederick Baker had been with the children prior to Fanny's disappearance. The police retraced his steps and they were at his office right away. Arriving at the solicitor's office at 9 p.m., they found Baker still at work. When the police arrived, Baker said that he was innocent, he has nothing to do with this whole situation, but because police had no alternative and they had only 1 suspect to arrest, they arrested Baker. By this time, a large number of people started to gather outside Baker's office, and the police were worried that the people and the crowd outside might kill him because he did a bad deed. The police had to smuggle him out the back door so the crowd could not get to him. When searched at the police station, Baker was found to be in possession of 2 small knives. There were spots of blood on his wristband of his shirt, and his trouser had been soaked to conceal the blood stains. After being questioned about his appearances, Baker responded, "Well, I don't have a scratch on my body to account for the blood." So he basically said it was not his because he does not have any injury to his body. In his interrogation, the police said he looked very cool and collected, like he was unfazed by the whole situation, like he did not even kill an innocent girl. After some investigation, the police discovered Baker's diary in his office on his desk with some legal paperwork, and let me read to you what it said in his diary. So the entry was made for 24 August 1867, the day of the murder, and it said, "I killed a girl and it was fine and hot." While this whole investigation was being carried out, Baker remained completely unfazed, like he was not even bothered, and he did not exhibit any kind of insanity behaviors. Baker also tried to pull an easy way out by saying that he was intoxicated when this whole situation happened after he was caught by his diary entry. Not even begin to tell you how disgusted I feel. This killer is being savage. He's not even trying to hide the fact that he had something to do with this murder. He had the freaking weapons in his jacket. And his diary entry, just 2 words for that innocent girl's life that he killed. After his trial was finished, he was transferred to Winchester Prison on 19 October. So the witness was a young boy who lived nearby the location where he killed Fanny. The boy testified that he saw Baker emerge from the hop garden with his clothes and hands being all soaked in blood. He also said that he saw Baker go to the river to wash himself, clean his hands, and he saw him also cleaning his murder weapons, the 2 small knives, and another unidentified weapon. The boy related the story to his mother, and she told the authorities about this 2 months later when the murder happened. The police did try to search for another unidentified weapon 16 days after this whole witness was reported, but they couldn't find any weapon. So the evidence were sent to some professionals to know how the whole murder situation was carried out. So they figured out that the rock they found with some scar tissue and some hair was the main weapon used to kill Fanny. Baker basically hit Fanny with the rock on her head, and that's how she died, with a blunt force trauma. She was bleeding in her head. He also said that the amount of blood that should have been found on the knife was shocking because it had very little blood traces. It should have been a lot considering what he did to Fanny. After a long-ass 2 months trial, Baker was finally proven guilty and he was hanged to death in the Winchester prison he was at, and his death was the last death in that prison. Before Baker's death, Baker wrote a letter to Fanny's family saying that he had done a very bad thing and he was expressing his sorrows, and he was seeking for their forgiveness. And I don't even know. So I hope you do understand this case. I was blabbing a lot, but yeah. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you thought about this case. I have a lot to say, but I do not want to offend anybody.